Welcome to the Fit Drivers Podcast, sponsored by Tenstreet, connecting carriers and drivers to make life easier, pre and post-hire. From efficient and seamless recruiting to tools that keep drivers engaged and compliant and on the road. Tenstreet helps you market, hire, retain, and grow. Learn more at tenstreet.com.
Hey, Bob. Thanks for having me on. I'm Tara Bush.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for having me on. I'm Becca Mathews. Excited to be here.
Well, welcome everybody to another podcast with Fit Drivers, and I'm really excited today. Two reasons. One, new sponsor, Tenstreet, which I just can't say enough about them. They've been so supportive with my mission in driver health, and the last several years have been my title sponsor for Women in Trucking, pushing 22 push-ups a day for 22 days, supporting veteran suicide support. And now they have stepped up, and now they're going to be the title sponsor for my new podcast this year moving forward. So, and I've got two of their finest on here with me today that we're going to talk about driver health and recruitment and all kinds of fun stuff. And so I want to introduce Becca Mathews. Becca has been in the transportation industry for over 12 years. Last 5 years in sales as a team leader and retention advisor at Tenstreet. She has a passion for helping carriers improve lives of their drivers as well as their employees through different retention strategies, including wellness. And I've known Becca for a great number of years, and I can tell you she truly is very passionate about wellness. And with her co-worker is Tara Bush. Tara is an enterprise account executive at Tenstreet. She's worked with some of the largest fleets across the U.S., handling new client implementations and building strong relationships with current clients to help them evolve the way carriers recruit and keep drivers compliant. She also is passionate about connecting carriers with innovative transportation solutions to capture efficient and cost savings. Great. Well, yeah, that's what this year's podcast is about, speaking of solutions. So the last year, I spent educating people because a lot of the carriers and individuals don't realize the critical health issues of our drivers out there today, right? So this year I'm dedicating to talking about solutions. So that's the reason why I was happy about Tenstreet, because I know that they're in the front lines there of thousands and thousands of companies out there doing just not recruiting drivers, but also going in depth to try and help these carriers keep drivers compliant, which we know is a full-time job, and keeping them. And I know Rebecca's big in retention. So I want to first start off by having both of you, however you wish to go first, tell the listeners really about Tenstreet and what you really do for your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tenstreet, a lot of carriers in the industry will recognize Tenstreet for the verifications of employment. That's really where we started in 2006. But Tenstreet is much more than that. We're a full driver management system. So from the time that a driver is interested in working for a carrier to the very end of the life cycle, so the recruiting, the onboarding, the offer being extended, and all the backgrounds and consumer reports that are required to be ran on them at that time. Moving into orientation, we offer electronic onboarding and training. We have our full library of training modules that our carriers can send out to drivers. Going into safety, the full compliance umbrella. CSA tracking, claims management, equipment tracking, DQF, clearinghouse. There's a lot that goes into, like you said, there's a lot that goes into keeping a driver compliant. So the document tracking and that type of thing. And all of this kind of wraps into, we offer an app for drivers to be able to engage with their carrier really at any given time, whether that's messaging or document share or training. So it makes it really easy for the driver as well as the carrier to, go back and forth with those needs and those items to keep them compliant while they're on the road.
Wow. So one of the things that I want to discuss right away is that so I work with FMCSA, and I get a lot of the driver health statistics out there, and also work with the Virginia Tech Institute, which you're probably aware of. They're the ones that really examine all the DOT exams. And so it's very sad to say that, first of all, we lose about 300,000 drivers a year because they fail their DOT exams due to medical. And out of the number fluctuates, I know, 3.5, we'll call it for today, that almost 55% of those CDL holders are operating on a 1-year card or less, which means that if 12 months, it's really probably 8 months now, and there's probably almost a million. My last estimate was that I got from them was on a 90-day card. And so we know what happens when you get in a 90-day card. It's tough because I always make the comparison. If anybody, not even a truck driver, you went into your doctor and they said, hey, Becca, I need to see you make a change in 90 days. And that's a lot of pressure, right? And you're not even driving, and the drivers are out there trying to manage their lives and on the road and deadlines and all that, and then they're under the pressure in the back of their brain that, man, I got this exam coming back up, I gotta pass. So my question to you ladies is that when you're talking to the carriers and working with, does this topic come up very much at all about the state of the drivers and how many drivers they have in their driving pool, and they may be on short-term cards, or does that ever come up in conversations when you're talking to your clients?
Bob, absolutely. Like it absolutely does, right? And the reason it does, we talk about retention. So one of the things that Tenstreet is passionate about is helping carriers with driver engagement and retention. Well, of
Right.
course, when we're talking to them, we ask them, why are you losing drivers? And health issues, huge. Drivers are sick. Drivers have heart attacks on the road. Drivers have high blood pressure, which leads them into having this 90-day card. And we're asking them in 90 days to change major behaviors and habits to turn around their health and wellness in 90 days. Like you and I know that's hard for anybody to do.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
Very
absolutely.
difficult.
Absolutely.
And I tell you one thing, Becca, it's always amazed me. Still today, I mean, I just had a conversation a couple of days ago with carriers. Very few carriers, and it's one of the things I want to talk to you folks about today, have a metric systems or technology to really understand how many drivers they have on short-term cards and when those drivers are going to be coming due, and what does that look like, the condition, right? And this is something that, and I was really looking forward also about this conversation with you folks, because I want to get your input on this. I know I'm kind of jumping around here from our layout, but companies will spend thousands and thousands of dollars for technology to tell that shop foreman, manager, director, whatever, that, hey, you've got this truck out there. It's got about 200,000 miles. The engine's probably going to blow up. You should probably get it off the road and get it serviced so that you don't have a road call service, right, expense. But they'll spend thousands of dollars to read that kind of technology, but will they spend, call it $100 for that driver to get some kind of a pre-screening? Because listen, if the engine blows up on the truck on the road, it's just going to stop, right? The engine of the driver blows up, it's ugly, right? It's collateral damage out there. So kind of a two-part question there, and maybe that's what we'll get into about. I know you have a driver pulse app that we're going to talk about, but do you see that as well, and do you have technology that helps these carriers manage that and look out there in the future and see where the drivers are at that are potentially coming up for exam and can help them? Is that where kind of maybe the brainstorm started with your driver pulse app into that? Is that part of the makings of that?
I think with Pulse, there's a lot of capabilities with Driver Pulse, Bob. One of the things carriers can do with Pulse, they can track when med cards are going to be expiring and they're up for renewal. So that's a portion of it, right? If they're tracking that within the system, the benefit to Driver Pulse that we see is we reach millions of drivers, right? We have a huge network of drivers that we can reach out to that carriers have access, right? Their driver pool that they can get in front of proactively using Pulse So it's a communication mechanism for them. They can get in front of drivers and have those communications. We can do things like wellness challenges and give them wellness knowledge on topics that are meaningful for them right through their app and make it meaningful for that driver. Because we know in our industry, when you talk about health and wellness, it's not general population. We need to make it driver specific. So we have the avenue to push that information back and forth between the driver and carrier.
Wow, that's great. So, and has it been your experience for both of you that when you're talking to companies that a lot of them don't have that ability to track or have not thought about trying to make that a
Mhm.
priority? Do you see that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I
Wow.
think that from experience, from things that I hear is it's all about having resources, right? Do you have an appointed person that's in there watching the med card expirations? They're watching drivers who are going down from a 2-year to a 1-year medical card. Like that should be flagged, right? That should be flagged as, hey, let's step in and intervene, like an intervention of sorts, early on, proactively. So you're giving me some good ideas here, Bob.
Well, well, that's the idea of these podcasts to be able to help other people have solutions, right? And come up with because I know in our world and both of you with experience in wellness, I mean, this is like you said, just getting people to change their mindset. There's not even a driver. That's a huge step for most people, right? And
Mhm.
and so, but what I've always loved about working with drivers, opposed to people, and I call it in the residential sector of health clubs, is that if they don't look like everybody in the magazine in 30 days, they quit, right? There's no real motivation. They want it. They want it now. But what I love about the drivers, and if you're a true person that's passionate about wellness, it really is about making changes on the inside first, right? And if you do it long enough, all of a sudden you look in the mirror in 6 months, you go, wow, I look different. But the drivers, their value proposition for them is to get that blood pressure. Because we know when you have a 1 year card, right, you get a 1 year because you've already been diagnosed with prehypertension, uh, prediabetes, possibly high sugar, sleep apnea. So for them, by just making simple changes to get that blood pressure under control and get that card extended, that's a huge win, right? And then you can start working it down the path to other. I mean, I know early on in my career in this space, obviously still believe in fitness and so forth, but then come to realize it's really about spending as much time as I can getting those drivers to understand what they put in their mouth, and the portions of it, right? If you can make those simple changes first and then get the weight down and get that first 10 pounds down, they start to see a change in them. But so let's talk a little bit more about the Driver Pulse app. And really, it's I know that that's one of the things that I was excited to hear about that you have an application that is a way for drivers, because in drivers you have to kind of lead them down the path, right? And you can't just kind of force them, and you got to get them to understand this is really, we're sincerely genuinely concerned about you and your livelihood, and here are some simple steps that you can do. So can you talk a little bit about that more in detail on your Driver Pulse app, and how do you get them when they first download the app? Is that part of the onboarding that they have access? Is everything done through the application and the app to give them direction to communicate? Is that how it's done?
Sarah, you
Yeah,
want to take
I
that
can
one?
jump. Yeah. Yeah, so the Pulse app allows for the orientation side, the typical road test, 7 day long, those types of forms. But it can also be some custom forms and some custom training. And so the driver can have on their device, in their hand, on the road, any sort of training that the carrier has pushed out to them. And it can be from Tenstreet, like Becca said, we do have a wellness category that the carrier can pull from, but they can also create and customize their own. So, if they want to make a focus on something that's important to them, like you said, better eating habits, or, exercises on the road that can take place that's easy for a driver to do. Anything like that, idea wise, to excite them, incentivize them, show them how to do it. We all like to be helped along the way if we're going to be trying something new. And so the Pulse app allows not just for the training to be sent, but it also incorporates video messaging. So if the driver has questions, or the person that's working with that driver says, "Hey, let's be on a call and do them together." I mean, let's do piece of classes, we're on the call. That Pulse app gives that opportunity for the instant connection, the live video, the training that needs to be done. So yeah, there's a lot of cool ways that a carrier can engage with the driver in a variety of what's important to them. And like you said, it's, wellness can be a lot of different factors. It can be the foods, it can be, the exercise, it can be the mental, that we want to try to get drivers better, focused on. So it offers all of those opportunities.
So there
Absolutely.
is a
And then I'll add,
component in there. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Bob, I will add, there's a component in there that's appealing to the carriers, right? That component is I can reach my drivers. And so as we talk about wellness, this idea actually came from our clients. They were reaching out saying, "Hey, Becca, we have drivers that want education, that want to do something, that want to be healthy on the road. We don't know how to get that information out." And so that's how the idea of pushing Pulse Wellness evolved. It was from the carrier side and the client saying, "We have this program, but we don't know how to reach the drivers, right? What can we do?" And so, as Tara mentioned, we have the communication hub, we have the resources, and we want to create that support group. So we push out different challenges, wellness challenges, right? It can be, "Hey, let's change the mindset first and do a positive affirmation challenge. I want you to write one thing about yourself that you really like today and put that sticky note in your window so you can see it every day. And you're going to snap a picture of that sticky note and you're going to put that into an entry within our company. And at the end of 1 month, we're going to gather all this information and we're going to also incentivize you and do this as a group and gamify. You had this so that you have that support system, right, along
Right.
the way."
Great. Well, I have to tell you, when you're talking about these different competitions and or just getting drivers, having ways for drivers to make changes to start moving, right? And some people, they don't want to compete against somebody else. They don't want to feel it. But so there's a happy to tell you that you'll be pleased to hear from, I'm sure, from Tenstreet, that we have a walk coming up for veterans. It's called Walk for Veterans, and I don't know if you ladies are familiar with Sarah Lee. Sarah Lee has a organization called Waypoint Vets, where she helps vets. She takes them on all these great excursions and gets them to really help change their lives, right? So we're going to do a virtual walk starting in Chicago to the coast and west coast, and and goes out saying Tenstreet, once again, thanks to them, they're going to be a premier sponsor. They're going to be the sponsor of the opening kickoff of the walk in Chicago, and then when it ends in California. So, this is another opportunity that you can push this out to all those millions of drivers who you want them to have the same, because we know that the last number I had, like 10% of our CDL holders out there are veterans. And so, it's a virtual walk, and they can sign up for it and, participate in it, and, get points and all this fun stuff and rewards and all those things that, like what you're talking about. So that could be a nice little extra competition you could add into your categories there for the drivers. So that'll be happening probably sometime the next couple of weeks. I think we're going to start sometime in like April 1st. So it's going to be a pretty huge event. So another reason I was so excited about Tenstreet, because they also, part of the sponsorship they're doing with me is to also continue to sponsor my Women in Trucking Keep Pushing in November as well. So, which will kind of dovetail into this national walk. So, um, So when I want to make sure listeners um, understand also too about, because I don't know if maybe you mentioned and I didn't get it, but when you first onboard a company, let's say you sign up ABC Freight and they've got already 500 drivers and they're going to use your system to recruit and so forth. New drivers coming in. So do you instantly those 500, let's say they have, then you send out what an invite to them and a way that they can get the Pulse app and start getting, is that part of the onboarding right away from the beginning, as well as the new ones coming in?
Yeah, it is. So when a company comes on board, we'll do an import of their current fleet to get those drivers in Tenstreet. You know, surprisingly, a lot of carriers will find that their drivers had Pulse, and they didn't even know that. And so when the profile is created, it'll kind of match it up to, you know, very important criteria for that individual, their phone number, their email, the last four of their social. Like it'll create that individual person is, you know, specific. And then if they have Pulse, it'll actually show that they're already a Pulse user. But we do have free messaging that carriers can utilize to kind of bulk send out to their current crew. Like, hey, we use the Pulse app. We'd love for you to download it and, you know, be a part of it. So we've got a couple different ways that we can help the carriers get in front of all their current hired drivers as well for that. And then, of course, any driver coming in, they're prompted at the end of the application to be a part of Pulse. A lot of our carriers will require it when they come into orientation. It's like something, you know, stepwise that, okay, everyone get out their phone, download the Pulse app. So it's becoming more and more a thing that if drivers don't already have it, the carrier is probably going to request it during the orientation or post-hire process anyway. So,
Interesting. Interesting. So I know you have a big event every year, right?
mhm.
Here in Las Vegas, where I'm at. So tell the listeners what takes place at that event. How long is it, and what is is it? It's not a typical trade show, right? It's just for your customer base. Is that correct, or can anybody go?
Absolutely, you're correct. So our Tenstreet User Conference is something that we host every year for our Tenstreet clients, right? And this year it's going to be May 7th, starting in May 7th through the 10th. So it's a 3-day event. This is a time that we really take pride in collaborating with our clients, you know, offering additional support and knowledge for them based on topics that are important, based on some innovative things that are coming out in our industry as well. They also get to learn about some new innovative strategies and products that Tenstreet is working on to release that's going to help them evolve in all of their processes, you know, even from the recruiting side to the post hire side, but really creating that bridge between the carrier and driver, keeping that connection going. So it's very cutting edge and exciting. And not to mention it's in Vegas. So of course, Bob, you know, we have a great time as well.
Right on, right on. So are there like breakout sessions and the agendas put together based on feedback that you get from your clients, right? Is that correct on what they want to do? And do you have a session strictly around, I assume, about the Pulse app and new innovative things that you're doing and all that? Right on.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And I mean, our agenda is posted as well. So you can search online, you know, go to 10th Street User Conference 2025 and you can register if you're a current client and see the current agenda as well. But Pulse is a huge component of that because again, that's a communication hub we use.
Good. So let me ask you this then. So if you're recruiting, just as you recruit drivers, obviously you recruit new clients, new customers, new carriers. Do you sometimes invite them then to come to this and use that as a opportunity to sell them into your services and invite them that you're trying to, motivate to use Tenstreet?
Yeah, I mean, in fact, I actually had that conversation this morning with a company who's anticipating coming on board. They're a very large carrier, and they are trying to learn as much about Tenstreet as they can right now, so they can make a decision. And so I invited them to the conference. I was like, you know, you'll be able to interact with other carriers that do use Tenstreet, and you'll hear from them the success that they've found. You know, how they implement and onboard their drivers through the different processes that we offer, because we're not a one size fits all. It's a very custom system to say, hey, where's the value that you're looking for? Like, what are the needs that you have? What are the pain points that you're trying to, fill that void in? And then the Tenstreet services, how does that play out for you? So we absolutely will have carriers, if they're interested in being a part of Tenstreet, invite them to come and really just, I mean, it's a great opportunity to connect with those other carriers in the industry and hear from them directly, like, what they love about Tenstreet and how they found success with that.
Great. So tell the listeners, if people want to know more about Tenstreet and how they can learn and find out, how do they reach out? Is there a website, obviously, that they can go to, or you have a special call-in number or whatever? So put it out there for us.
Absolutely.
And post it up there.
Yes. They can visit tenstreet.com. It has all of the contact information. If they want to learn more about our products and services, they can start there. That's a great starting place. They can get over to connect to Tara or myself as well. They can always reach out to us individually. Mine is becca.mathews@tenstreet.com. They can always reach out to me. We can connect them to the right team, as well as Tara.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is hard pressed to go to any show and not see Tenstreet. Of course, being there or sponsoring or help support an event. I mean, they're really all about it, trying to help as many drivers as they can. And I'm really proud to have them supporting what we're doing and so forth. And so, Becca, I can't tell you, it's great to see you. Glad you're still fighting the fight. And Tara, thank you for your help and input. And so you did a great job, and hopefully we can push this out to all your network drivers, and maybe they can learn some more things about it and that they didn't really know. We know that there's a lot that goes into orientation, right? And they just a lot for them to absorb, and sometimes they miss the high point. I can't tell you how many times I've done orientation classes talking about health, and I'll talk about blood pressure, and the number of drivers who raise their hand and say, "You mean they can take me off the road if my blood pressure is too high?" And, and he said, "Well, how long will they give me?" And I said, "About as long as it'll take you to clean out your truck." I said, "That is like, a big no-no, and they just miss a lot of these things, right? And they're not trained in that category, right? And so I can't tell you, I'm, as a wellness advocate, driver health advocate, I'm very impressed. I'm very pleased that you offer that opportunity to these drivers. And, every driver counts or nobody counts, right? So anytime we can touch a driver and give them some information and help them support. And I hope we can get more carriers behind it as well, right? Because that's where it starts, getting them to an orientation. And I know a lot of what I like about your application is that one of the things I've always fought in getting in orientation is getting on the menu, basically, right? And being out of time. And they said, "Bob, we just don't have time." I said, "How can you not have time to talk about driver health?" And because you can't be safe if you're not well, right? And I'm a firm believer that I know that we're trying hard out there to get a younger population to come in, to learn about this great career uh, in business they could be in. But I also believe we'd be doing them a grave injustice if we don't learn from the previous mistakes of not spending a little time educating drivers and on how they can take better care of themselves. Because it's like professional athletes, until they change like in football, the concussion protocol, right? They get dinged and they're all right because players want to play and drivers want to drive. And so sometimes when you work in an environment that's very detrimental to your health, I think we all have an obligation to help those people protect them from themselves, right? And give them some simple tools to help keep them and protect their livelihood. And at the end of the day, get them home safe to their family. And I have two brothers out there still driving today, and so it's it's ongoing, and they tell me the challenges that they face every day. So it's tough. So okay, well, thank you so much. Anything else you'd like to add? Feel free. If not, sincerely appreciate you coming on, and we look forward to it. And we'll do some follow up, and then hope I get to see you in Vegas.
Perfect. And Bob, we just
Absolutely.
want to thank you for inviting us as well. And we'll
Sure.
continue to push through on this mission, changing one driver's life at a time. And keep educating our industry as well is going to be important. So we're here to help, and thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. All right, my pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Welcome to the Fit Drivers Podcast, sponsored by Tenstreet, connecting carriers and drivers to make life easier, pre and post-hire, from efficient and seamless recruiting to tools that keep drivers engaged and compliant and on the road. Tenstreet helps you market, hire, retain, and grow. Learn more at tenstreet.com.